Hi, my name is Katie Baker and I am one of the sleep consultants on the Kelly Murray Sleep Squad, here to talk today about how to know when it's time to stop swaddling your baby. When babies are newborns, we swaddle them for many reasons. So first of all, babies really like the feeling of being snug and secure. They've just spent 9 months in a pretty tight space. And so when they're born, it can be really hard for them to adjust to all of a sudden being able to move their bodies freely. Babies are also born with something called the Moro reflex, which is the startle reflex. You might notice if you go to lay your baby down or they've been laying down unswaddled, that they might suddenly splay their arms and legs, and that is a reflex. And that is something that can make sleep really hard. If they are not swaddled and they have that reaction, it can wake them up. So swaddling is definitely beneficial for sleep. It's also beneficial for soothing. And so we definitely recommend swaddling your newborns. There's lots of different styles of swaddles that I encourage you to try out. Babies sometimes seem like they don't like being swaddled. They might fight it. But once you get them nice and snug in there, I promise you, it's super helpful. So, you know, you can swaddle them in a receiving blanket like a little burrito. There's zip up swaddles, Velcro swaddles, all sorts of different types. So I encourage you to try to find the one that your baby likes the best. So how to know when it's time to stop swaddling your baby? Typically around 3 to 4 months old is when your baby starts to lose the Moro reflex. And also oftentimes correlates with their new skill of rolling. So if you've noticed that your baby has started rolling over, it's time to drop the swaddle. It's not safe for babies to roll over when they're swaddled because they need their hands and their arms to get back to a safe sleeping space. Also, if you've laid your baby down in a crib or a bassinet and you come back after they've been asleep and you've noticed that they're in a different position, that means that they've moved around, which again is either a sign that they're starting to roll or just a sign that they're moving around a little too much to be swaddled. And lastly, if you've noticed that your baby suddenly is really fighting it and able to bust out of the swaddle, it's probably time to transition them out. And so that can be really tricky for a lot of babies. If they're used to being swaddled when they're sleeping and then suddenly they're not, you might see a little bit of a sleep regression. And the good news is there's a lot of products out there these days that can help you transition from swaddling. You can buy a sleep sack, which still has the bottom part, but the arms are out. A lot of the swaddles actually are swaddle, sleep sack, sort of 2-for-1 deal. And so I often recommend starting with one arm out, just so it's kind of a little bit of a slower transition. That way it's safe for them if they roll over, but they're also still snug on one side. And then there's also things like the Magic Sleep Suit, which still, you know, their arms are free, but it's super puffy, so they're not as easy to be startled. And so if you are in the midst of unswaddling, transitioning to that unswaddled baby, and you're noticing a little bit of a regression, just push through it. It takes babies sometimes a couple of nights of not being swaddled to get used to it, but it will work eventually. And of course, we unswaddle in the name of safety. So we obviously want to make sure that we're practicing safe sleep habits. So transitioning out of the swaddle is one of those things that we just kind of have to do.